Welcome to the Ketones and Coffee Podcast with Lorenz Manaig, where we explore the ketogenic lifestyle and how it can improve your physical and mental health. Each week, we bring you valuable insights and advice from experts to help you on your journey to a healthier lifestyle. This episode is brought to you by BasicKetogenicLifestyle.com, where Lorenz coaches individuals with depression to reverse their symptoms and achieve a healthier, happier life using an evidence-based approach. So sit back, relax, and join us as we dive deep into the world of ketones and coffee. Subscribe to the Ketones and Coffee Podcast today and never miss an episode.
I'm so excited for this. Today, we are going to be discussing the topic of lifestyle change, in particular to changing your diet from a standard American diet to a ketogenic diet or carnivore diet for that matter, right? So if you have been a listener of the show for a long time, you know by now how impactful the ketogenic diet is. If done right, you can, reverse most, if not all, chronic diseases that plagues our society today, including obesity, type 2 diabetes, mental disorders such as bipolar and schizophrenia. I have, brought in experts on my show to help, explain how this works, right? I am not an expert at this science, but interviewing these individuals allowed me to learn and share it with the audience, right? So today we are going to be discussing what we've learned over the years of, interviewing these experts and also through my own experience experimenting with the ketogenic diet. To those who are regular listeners of the show, welcome back. And for our new listeners, I welcome you to today's episode. I hope that listening to this, you can gain a new perspective on what does, it actually mean to create a lifestyle change. So quickly and briefly for those who are new, my name is Lorenz and I am a keto coach and a carnivore coach, as well as a weight loss expert. I went from 185 pounds to 145, a 40-pound weight loss in a span of 3 to 4 years on keto. And then, I started the carnivore diet. I found this lifestyle actually to lose weight, and I was also suffering from MDD, which is major depression, which is known to be one of the biggest mental disorders that plagues our society today. So I was also getting panic attacks and all that jazz. And I went on keto for my first year, lost a lot of weight. My energy, brain fog was gone, and I was slowly seeing my symptoms of depression slowly wither away. Literally, it was like a light bulb that came on, right, when I started the ketogenic diet. I was a kid growing up that didn't have any intentions to read books, right, because I had always had attention problem. Might be an undiagnosed ADD, but, I don't know. But when I started the diet, it's like my brain turned on for the very first time, to be honest with you. I no longer was limited and was looking back because at the time I didn't know how capable I was until I crossed over and become fat adapted on a ketogenic diet. So that's the story. I changed my diet and lifestyle and completely turned my life around. Having said that, you may have a lot of questions because you know that this is good for you, right? But practicing it and taking action can take a little bit of time, right? But obviously, this may be a simple change and a simple decision to make, but this is far from easy, right? I want you to know that. So I can set that expectation right now for you guys. I want to read a quote from the book I'm currently reading right now, and this is by Eckhart Tolle. Forgive me if I mispronounce his name. The book is called The Power of Now. If there is a book about lifestyle change, this is the book, right? It may not talk about specifically about lifestyle, but the same principles apply when creating a change. I urge you to get this book. I will link it down in the description box below so you guys can check that out. So here's a quote. The quote goes, "All it takes is a simple choice, a simple decision. No matter what happens, I will create no more pain for myself. I will create no more problems. Although it's a simple choice, it is also very radical. You won't make that choice unless you are truly, truly fed up with suffering, unless you have truly had enough." He was solely talking about suffering in general, right? So I also had recently had Temple Stewart on the show a couple of weeks ago, and she is a behavioral change specialist, and we discussed this very topic with her. And here she is, and what she has about to say.
For most people, it's a cultural thing. It's a habit thing. It treats our emotions. There's psychological factors that play into it. And so there's all these different things that influence what we choose to eat and that shape what we choose to eat. And so every single person is a different individual and has different lived experiences that cause them to choose certain things and a behavior and all of that. And so I think it's really important to understand that, especially as coaches or practitioners, or maybe there's clinicians listening. Like, every person is going to have a different nutrition history, and really kind of getting to the deeper levels of why are we eating this way? What is causing this? Why are we going on binges? Why are we having, 32-ounce sodas every day for lunch? And all these different things play into that.
She stresses the importance of understanding the psychological factors influencing food choices, right? And the need to address the root causes of unhealthy eating habits. Another thing is our cultural factors, right? Food is so tied to our cultures that to some people, it can be very disrespectful to avoid eating foods, right? That we deem delicacies of a culture. To say that it is still possible, right? To break through from that. Take my situation. I grew up in a Filipino household and it wasn't easy in the beginning, but if, your belief is strong, even if it causes friction, right, amongst family members, they will come around once you see through results, right? Once you start getting results, then you might even get a chance to get them on board with the lifestyle, right? So it's all an opportunity at the end of the day, but you have to be strong in your conviction. Again, this is a very radical choice, right? Always going back to that. I want to address deprivation too, right? As people, we never want to feel this, right? Because we want to be abundant. There is no other time in history like this where the abundance of food is unmatched. But the problem is now the quality of food we consume are like really, the quality of food is so low today in this day and age. So when someone questions you about your diet of eating whole foods instead of, foods high in chemicals and sugar, that isn't deprivation. That's actually self-preservation. So here's the part when I want you guys to take notes. Also, if our friends here from TikTok, also you guys take notes. If you decide to start your journey today, hopefully sooner rather than later, you will need to remember this, right? As an easy way to save notes is through your phone. Put your phone out right now. And I have all my ideas written on mine, and all my podcasts actually, in fact, starts on a notepad, right? Here's the breakdown of our discussion today about lifestyle change and how to create a sustainable lifestyle around it. So if you're writing this down, write it in bullet points. Number one, understanding our why, right? Number one, understanding why. Number two, breaking down goals, right? That's important. Breaking down goals is the most important too, right? Number three, identifying habits, right? Write it down. Number four, building a support system, right? Okay. Now, again, this is talking about how to actually create a lifestyle change. We all know what the ketogenic diet is. We all know what the carnivore diet is, but how do we actually make that change, right? Because it's just so, the carnivore diet, first of all, this is so simple, and this is an elimination diet, and you see it everywhere. But how do you actually make a change, right? So number four is building a support system. Number five, coping with setbacks. How do you cope with setbacks, right? Number six is mindful eating. Mindful eating. Number six. 7, incorporating physical activity. Why is that important, right? We'll talk about how incorporating physical activity is important for your goals. And last but not least is celebrating successes. Why is that important, right? If this is making sense to you guys, give me a few likes here on TikTok. Let's show this to more people here, guys. Also, this will be live tomorrow on all of our platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, you name it. It's going to be up. So, understanding our why, right? Now we're going to start, This is where you start writing notes. Understanding our why. This is a good start for this discussion because it's simple and it's direct, right? Why? Why do you want to change, right? Why do you want to change? That's a question for all of you, right? That's the first question that I always ask my clients. Why do you want to change? Because when you're not consistent with your diet, right? When you're not consistent with carnivore or keto, the first question is, why do you want it? Why do you want to change? What's the reason, right? You got to start there. You got to really know yourself. I always say, hey, if your lifestyle is working right now, don't change anything. I mean, if you like what you see in the mirror, if you like how you feel good, right? If you feel good, means your lifestyle is working. But if it's not, if you have aches and pains, if you're gaining weight, if you have depression, if you have anxiety, right? It's time to look at your lifestyle. And, you know, if you're doing the same thing over and over again and it's not working, you know, you gotta look at yourself in the mirror and say, hey, what am I doing wrong, right? The first thing you have to look at is your lifestyle. It's time to look at your lifestyle, and it's time to look at what you're doing wrong, right? Because you can't keep, you know, going the same direction thinking you're going to heal, right? You're thinking you're going to lose weight. You got to sometimes be bold and sometimes ask the right questions. So it has to be specific, and it has to be your own personal reason, right? I'll give you an example. So this is my 4th year on keto, right? 4th year. And I've lost over 40 pounds and kept it off, right? And that can be a good enough reason, right? But my why was because I gave, you know, this lifestyle gave me so much freedom, right? It gave me so much freedom from depression. And I don't ever want to, you know, go back to that. I don't ever want to go back to that dark place, right? And that's my why, right? I won't ever want to go back to that. So that's so strong for me that I take many hours to make videos to help others do the same. Like the quote from The Power of Now, right? You won't make that choice unless you are truly fed up, right? What are you sick and tired of, right? What are you sick and tired of? Get clear on that, right? Get clear on that. So that's understanding your why, really. Basically getting clear on why, what's your reason, and dig deep, right? Dig deep into your why. Keep asking that question. Why do I want to lose weight? I want to get healthy. Okay, but why do you want to get healthy? Keep asking that question over and over again, and you'll find your why at the end of that. I guarantee it. Okay, just you got to spend that time with yourself, okay? All right, number 2, this is breaking down goals. We have a reason, right, and purpose to do something, and we already figured that out, right? And in turn, that gives you energy. What's missing is taking action, right? You already know your purpose. You already know your reason at this point, right? But what's missing is you taking action. And not just any action. You will be lost, and having a crystal clear goal is another component of that, right? So I want to give you a quote. A man without a goal is like a ship without a rudder, right? We all heard that before, right? It's by Thomas Carlyle. It's a great historian in his day, right? A rudder is what propels the ship, right? Without it, it becomes very hard to get to where you are, where you want to go, rather, right? And this is why you need to set this, right? You really want to get clear on your goal and then break it down, right? If you want to lose about 50 pounds, why not start with 10 pounds, right? Start with 5 pounds, right? Start with 1, right? And really break that down. You don't want to overwhelm yourself at the end of the day, right? But you really want to know your goal. You really want to get crystal clear on your goal, right? So that's why that's so super important, right? Because you're not going to get there unless you know what you want to do, right? I always ask clients, hey, what they want to do, right? Sometimes they say they just want to lose weight. Sometimes that's not enough, right? Sometimes, you got to ask yourself, we got to go back to your why. Why do you want to lose weight, right? You want to reinforce that, keep reinforcing that. And when you get to that, right, it's time to build your goals around that why, right? So Once you understand your why, now we got to break down your goals, right? So number 2 is breaking down your goals. I hope this is making sense so far. We'll see. We have a couple questions here from TikTok. We'll answer them later on. So thank you guys so much for submitting your questions here. Number 3. All right. Number 3 is identifying habits, right? Changing our habits is hard. We all know that, right? But getting sick is harder, right? Getting sick, you got to choose your hard, right? So obesity is hard, right? Not getting up in the morning is hard. Getting up in the morning, early morning is hard, right? But getting fat is harder. Becoming obese is harder. Having having major depression is hard, right? You gotta choose your hard. So I know I've been there, right? When I would slide back to my old habits, my depression will come back. When I slide back to my old habits, my depression comes back. And it's a greater reminder for me that this is the lifestyle. It's like a validation, right? So we choose our hard, right? Do we stay the same or we change? Identify the habits that keeps you stuck. While we tend to focus on what we can't on keto or carnivore, it's more important to focus on what we can do, right? Thinking this way will just make your new lifestyle, first of all, very much enjoyable. And it uses psychology to help you create that new habit, right? All right, so let's recap. Number 1 is understanding your why, right? That's really important, number 1. And once you understand your why, you're going to get to your goal and get crystal clear on your goal. And then you're going to break that down. And then identifying your habits, right? And then creating new habits once we break your habit of, changing your lifestyle. Number 4 is building a support system, right? We all know how important the power of proximity is, right? If you surround yourself with people who are sedentary, right? If you surround your people with, people who look down on people who care about health, right? Chances are you will be one of them, right? So here's what you need to start doing. Surround yourself with the most impressive people and up your peer group, right? Up your peer group. Join classes where you can meet other people who has the same goals. And you got to ask yourself, how bad do you really want this, right? Well, this is what it takes. Plus, it's easy to do this now, right? We have Facebook groups, we have Discord, we have Zoom where people with the same aspirations get together and grow, right? So building a support system is really important with changing your lifestyle, right? All right, so moving on, coping with setbacks. Number 1 thing, right? Setbacks are, when you slip up, when you had that cookie, right? When there's a moment of weakness in your life where, we're human, right? It happens. It's a setback. It's a natural part of any lifestyle change. But how you cope with that is important, right? The most powerful thing the mind uses is to pull you back in is guilt, right? Here's what I learned doing this for many years, right? Here it is. Pre-planned off-planned meals, right? I'm going to repeat that again. Pre-planned off-planned meals, right? Some people call it cheat days. Some people call it cheat meals. I call it pre-planned off-planned meals. Write that down. But why? Because language is important for me, right? Language is important for me, and language is important for lifestyle changes, right? So, change your lingo around food. When you promise yourself you won't let yourself slip up, and after 7 days straight and one moment of weakness, the guilt that comes with that, right? And the emotion that derail you for months, right? When you could plan on an off-plan meal without the guilt because you expected to do it, it is a much easier way, right? It's a much easier to stay on track the following day. Try this for yourself. Do an experiment, right? This weekend, make sure, don't call it a cheat day, call it a pre-planned off-plan meal, right? It's a mouthful, I know. You see this all that no, this is just a mental game, right? All of this is a mental game. The key takeaway is to have a mentality that you want to change your lifestyle long term, right? This is a mentality to change your lifestyle long term, okay? You should start your lifestyle that way, right? Long term, longevity, lifestyle. And watch how your mind come up with ways on how to do that. It's a powerful thing. Um, all right. All right. So mindful eating, right? Let's go back to mindful living, right? How do we live a mindful life, right? Here's a quote by Marcus Aurelius. He says, "Give yourself a gift of the present moment," right? I repeat that again. Give yourself a gift of the present moment, right? In this life, right, 10 years may go by like nothing, right? How can that happen? Because we let the day slip by. Do you guys know the movie Matrix, right? Who doesn't? Neo was the awareness and the Matrix was the programming, right? We have that programming, and going against it, right, comes a lot of resistance, right? So, if you want to change your lifestyle, there's going to be a lot of resistance there, right? You know, it's all okay. It's just part of it, right? When you're changing something, it's just part of it. Same with mindful eating, right? Mindful eating too, the same, right? Well, let's define mindful living first of all. Mindful living is about living with awareness in the present moment, right? Mindful living meaning involves taking care of your actions, words, feelings to ensure that you live a good present life, right? It's about not letting life pass you by, right? All we need to do is to make that connection better, right? When you're eating, right, make sure you breathe in, breathe out before you take a bite. Make that connection. What did you feel, right? If you're just eating, right, mindlessly eating, right, you're not appreciating the food, right? You're not feeling what this food does to your body, right? So make that connection and make that connection stronger by, the best way is to breathe in, breathe out, really taste the food, really chew your food properly, all that jazz, right? It starts there. That's mindful eating. Okay, so last two are incorporating physical activity and celebrating successes. And incorporating physical activity, this is very important too, especially when you want to lose weight, right? I want to make this example that I've started doing this for a couple months now. When I started the carnivore diet, I wanted to lean out, lost 10 pounds quick, and the one thing that I added on my lifestyle is I started walking after I ate, right? And the reason why I'm doing that is because I want to lower insulin, right? Because the insulin, when you spike your blood sugar, right, insulin is released by the pancreas. And what insulin's job is to either use that energy or store that as fat, right? So what you want to do is you want to obviously use that energy, and so when you incorporate physical activity after you eat, then obviously your insulin will take that energy and use it, right? Because you need that for the day, right? So that's why it's really important, especially if you're someone with insulin resistance, right? If you eat close to bedtime and you have insulin resistance, guess what? Insulin's gonna try to store that food, right? To store that, and it becomes fat. And if you're insulin resistant, it's not gonna store it in your cells. Your insulin will store it in your liver, heart, and that's where fatty liver comes from. That's where heart disease comes from, and which is very dangerous, right? So you really want to, not eat very close to bedtime, right? So for me, I eat 5 hours before bedtime. I make sure that I eat at least 5 hours before bedtime, right? I would eat at 3 p.m. or maybe sometimes 4 p.m. And that actually helped with weight loss too as well, because I'm using that energy and I'm priming myself to becoming a fat burner, right? I'm priming myself to fasting before sleeping, right? So my fasting actually starts after 3 p.m., right? So very important, right? Very important. Last but not least is celebrating successes, right? You got to celebrate your success, right? A client told me, hey, I only lost about 5 pounds this month. Okay, but that's about 1 pound a week, right? That's still really good, right? For her, since she lost a bunch of weight a month prior to that, 5 pounds didn't seem to a lot to her. But to anyone listening, right? 5 pounds in a month, that's huge, right? And sometimes we gotta really remind ourselves that a win is a win at the end of the day. If you set yourself to wake up at 5 and you woke up at 4:30, that's a win, right? If you set yourself to wake up at 8 and you woke up at 7, that's a win, right? And if you didn't eat or didn't cheat on your diet this weekend, that's a win, right? You gotta understand. You gotta celebrate your success, no matter how small, right? The positive impact that it has when in your psyche and in your mentality, and it just the momentum that it creates is just huge for you, right? So I wanna, and that's the last point, right? And I wanna be able to break this down again and go back and summarize. So number one, understanding your why. That's the number one thing you really got to remember when you start to change your lifestyle, right? You got to understand your why. That's really important, right? And once you understand your why, it's time to get clear on that goal. It's time to get clear on that goal, right? No matter how big it is. If you want to shoot for the stars and land on the moon, great, right? But you got to understand, you got to break that down. If you want to lose 50 pounds, you want to take that and break that down. Maybe lose 5 pounds in the first month, right? And that you're setting yourself up for success that way, right? So break it down. But again, you got to be clear on your goal, right? You got to be clear, because the quote by Thomas Carlyle, right? A man without a goal is like a ship without a rudder. You got to remember that. Number 3, right? Identifying habits, right? Breaking habits. Number 1, you got to break habits, create new habits, right? It is hard. It is hard to change your habits, right? It is hard, but it's part of it. And if you really wanna change, and this is what it takes, right? Building a support system. This is how you create a, again, the power of proximity, right? We all know this. You got to surround yourself with people who has the same aspirations, right? Again, it's easy now, right? There's Facebook groups, there's Zoom, there's Discord that you can join, that people really support each other, and it helps. Like I have a lot of groups, right? With for different areas of my life, right? And they all help. They all help bring me up, and it helps me get to that goal, right? So coping with setbacks, because it's not always gonna be sunshine and rainbows, right? Sometimes there's gonna be a moment of weakness, right? But you gotta know how to cope with that, right? And language is really important, right? Language, right? Instead of cheat days, call it a pre-planned, off-planned meal, right? Remember that. Take notes. Mindful eating, right? Connecting with your food. Physical activity, and then celebrating your successes, right? Okay, so that is our episode for this week. I want to thank you guys for supporting the podcast and being a lifelong supporter of the show. I'm always here to guide you and support you on your journey, because I know I've been there. I've suffered. I've done all the different diets, in and out of diets, yo-yo dieting, gained a lot of weight, losing weight, and having major depression and relieving my symptoms. And I know how hard it is. I know how hard it is to change your lifestyle, right? But you gotta start somewhere, right? If you guys need any more help, I'm here. I'm available. You can reach out to me on Instagram. I'm on TikTok at Keto Coach Lorenz. You can also send me an email at lorenzmanaig@gmail.com. But yeah, just know that I'm always here for you, to support you in any way that I can. All right, guys. All right, that's episode 156, and I see you guys soon. Okay, peace.
Subscribe to the Ketones and Coffee podcast today and never miss an episode.